The expression I've heard says, we don't rise to the occasion, we fall to the level of our preparation. When things get hard, we resort to what's familiar, and that's perfectly normal human behavior. And so it's going to be a gradual adoption where people are able to step beyond what's familiar and try something new. I don't think it will be ubiquitous. I don't think we'll flip a switch and tomorrow everyone will be recording videos. I would love it if they did, but it will be a process. And I totally understand because, look, many people who are teaching learned about teaching, many decades ago, and they've been very effective in the classroom. So they look at it and say, I understand this is new, but I've been doing this for so long and it's already worked. And that's 100% true. It's valid. Absolutely. But one thing I also like to share is there has been a very big shift in the behavior of students with the advent of smartphone devices and social media, right? It used to be that children would sit at the lunch table and talk. Now they sit at that same lunch table and they're texting each other.
Welcome to episode 18 of the Learn and Unlearn podcast, where I have a conversation with Beau McCoy. Beau is the founder and CEO of SOLcademy, which stands for Simple Online Learning Academy. It is a platform for sharing short-form educational content. Join us as he talks about decentralized education by directly connecting the learner to the knowledge. Let's get started. Welcome, Beau. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Gautam. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Tell us about the vision and journey behind SOLcademy.
Sure, absolutely. So my background in education, when I grew up, I lived in a very integrated area, both along racial lines and socioeconomic lines. So I thought that everyone had access to the same quality of education, regardless of what you look like or what your family's socioeconomic status was. Well, when I went to college, I went to an elite university here in the United States, and I learned that there is great disparity across both racial and socioeconomic lines here in the United States. Basically, the way that you're born is going to have a big influence on your educational journey and the opportunities that you're afforded based on these factors. And that was hard for me to deal with, and I really did not understand why that was the case. With so much technology, everyone should have access to the same high quality educational experience. And in 2017, I went to travel. I wanted to see the world outside the United States because we're very insular here. And I got to spend about 2 years traveling primarily through developing parts of the world in Latin America, Southeast Asia, and Africa. And there I saw really, the disparity between a Western nation like the United States in education and the quality of education that existed in these other countries. But what I also saw was the people were exactly the same. They had the same motivations, the same intelligence, they cared about the same things. And I saw, okay, not only is it inside the United States that we have this disparity in education and the opportunities that result from it, but it's a global thing. And that really, was a problem for me because I had been working in education for about 6 years with teachers and principals, and they're really dedicated people. So when COVID came and forced schools to be closed, I was working with a bunch of schools in Los Angeles County in California. And I was living in Santa Monica, which is by the beach, and it's a beautiful area and is much higher on the socioeconomic scale. And I was working in Southern LA, which is lower socioeconomic area. And the students are almost exclusively either African American or Latinx American, right? So there are racial differences as well as socioeconomic differences. And I'm telling you, Gautam, the disparity between where I was living and what the high school students were able to do there when it comes to online learning and where I was working in South LA, and the fact that many of them did no school at all like no remote learning, was just as pronounced, if not more pronounced, than the disparity that I experienced when I left the United States to go travel to developing nations. And this wasn't happening thousands and thousands of kilometers away. We're talking about 4 exits away on the freeway. And so I had a real problem with that. And, I thought, okay, this is my opportunity to do something about it. So what can we do? It's really hard to go out and hire a whole bunch of teachers or train a whole bunch of teachers in new concepts. Those things are difficult for a huge school district like Los Angeles Unified, which has over 600,000 students, right? So what I saw was I was sitting in a science class. It was a biology class. And while the teacher was talking, all of his students were on their cell phones, watching videos and playing games. Literally 30 students were all on the devices while he was giving his lecture. And I said, this is it. If we could capture whatever that teacher is saying in a short format video, put it onto the cell phones, we could engage this entire generation because it crosses the racial lines. Everyone watches the same YouTube videos or TikTok videos. It crosses the socioeconomic lines. Doesn't matter if you're rich, middle class, poor. Everyone watches the same videos in TikTok and YouTube. So it works there. And it's also what I call non-local, right? You could be a teacher in Bangalore who does a great job of explaining a concept in science, and it could be learned from by a student in Los Angeles or Bogota, Colombia, or Singapore. It doesn't matter because it's the same concept. And that is how I feel SOLcademy was born. SOL stands for Simple Online Learning. It also is the word for sun in Spanish, like the sun in the celestial body. And I view education as a source of energy for growth, just like the sun. And that's why we're SOLcademy, because we're trying to bring that growth and that energy to the entire world. So I built a platform that makes it very easy for educators to share content. Just like you think of YouTube, you can put a video on there and share it with your, whoever wants to watch you, cook rice pilaf or something like that. A teacher can now create her lesson about science or math or history or personal finance or social emotional learning, wellness and mindfulness. You can teach about that and share it through SOLcademy with your students in your class, but more importantly, with your colleagues, because the people who you're working with in your school could also be using the same content that you're creating. So we're inviting teachers to collaborate with other teachers in their school and then ultimately decentralize the nature of education, meaning connect teachers with teachers and teachers with students, regardless of their physical location, so that you can collaborate with a teacher who's half a world away, or maybe even on Mars one day, and reach those students globally. And I'm so excited because I've been working with schools in India, with schools in Africa, with schools in Asia, with schools here in the United States, and they all have the same needs. Everyone needs content. They need assistance because we have this huge, chore ahead of us, which is called the 2021 school year, and a way to navigate it despite all the disruption that we had in the past. And so that's what SOLcademy is.
Wonderful, Beau. So it is also essentially soul to soul communication.
Exactly. That's a great way of saying it. Yes, thank you so much for that. Soul to soul communication.
Can you also walk us through how it works as a student or as a educator?
Mm-hmm. Well, our focus is on the educator first. So let me talk about that journey. They have this expression here in the United States that teachers do 5 shows a day, meaning they're performing 5 times for their 5 different classes, right, in high school. What I think they create is truly artistic and magical if you think about it, because how can one human being relate a concept to 30 other human beings who are much younger than them, completely different generationally? That is a real skill and a talent and an art. And I believe that all we need to do is capture that magic on video. So the first thing that you need to do if you're a creator is set up a camera and start talking. It's literally that it. And we encourage you to do 2 to 4 minute videos. That is the attention span that people have. So you create that video, you upload it to SOLcademy, and you can share it with the world. You also have the ability to share your educational resources. So all the time that teachers are spending creating lesson plans and printouts and activities, all these things that help apply the learning can be sold to the people who are watching your video. That is the concept of our free to watch educational marketplace. And so now the student, the parent, or the teacher will have a huge library of content to access the next time they want to learn something. For example, say a student is learning about, right triangles. And for whatever reason, when they hear their teacher talk about it, it just doesn't sit in. Well, maybe this student also likes hip hop music. And there's a teacher, from Chicago who relates right triangles through hip hop. Now the student sees that video and it goes, aha, now I understand math because you explain it to me in a way that makes sense to me, in a way that's culturally responsive. And they have the ability to take agency over their learning. And this is huge for parents because so many parents are invested in their children. They want to help their children who are struggling in a subject, maybe math or reading or something like that, but they're not educators and they work. They don't have, 5 hours a day. So they can come to SOLcademy and find the resources that they need to assist their child and get them engaged again. So that's a little bit about the journey.
Amazing. So what are the categories of topics that you have currently on SOLcademy?
Mm-hmm. So we cover the traditional subjects. We have a lot in English, in Spanish language, in science, in math, and these sorts of subjects. We also have a lot of professional development content, which means I'm a teacher and I want to learn about agile methodologies, or I'm a teacher and I want to learn how to use this tech tool, or I'm a teacher and I want to learn how to do the flipped classroom model where the students do the work in the class and they're learning at home. So we have all that content. But the thing that I'm most excited about, and then I'm putting energy out to the universe to hopefully attract, is we really focus on social and emotional learning, as well as what I call real world learning. The students of today, they want to be more aware of their emotions and how to navigate life, but they also want to learn how to manage their finances, how to get into college, how to network, how to get a good job, all these things. And all that is educational, so it's very much welcome here at SOLcademy.
Interesting. And in a country like India, where there are so many languages, I think it's also important to have local language content because not everyone can understand English. So, do you see any such content also coming in? Not just from India,
Yeah,
but from.
absolutely. So on our roadmap, I'm really glad that you asked that. Maybe you pulled it out of my mind. One of the next features that we're building is what we call localization. We're going to have the ability to show you all the videos, and then in a dropdown, you can select the language version that you want to see. As you mentioned, there's many languages spoken in India. So you could say, okay, I want to learn about those right triangles, but I need to learn it in Hindi or whatever the language choice is that you want. So you'll have that ability. We'll also give the creators the ability to tag their content with the culture that it's from. Because even though there's many languages spoken, inside of those languages, there's probably different dialects from different regions and, just different cultural examples that will make more sense in one part of India instead of another part. And so you'll have the ability to also tag it with the cultural and other traits that represent you as a teacher so that people who are looking for that content can easily find it as well.
That's great. How has been the feedback from students and educators about this so far?
It's been really interesting because students, they really love it. And the one thing they tell me is they get into what they call the rabbit hole. They start watching one video and then the next and the next, and the next thing you know, an hour or two has gone by. And a lot of them have said, I've never done that with anything educational before. So that is a great effect. And that's why I believe we'll ultimately be successful. On the teacher side, it's a little scary. It's scary to see yourself on video or to hear yourself talk, or they are their own harshest critics. right? So what I tried to do is invite them to, be kind to yourself and accept yourself. No one's going to be perfect on camera all the time. And you're already doing this, like you're talking to your students every single day. We're just recording it now. So it's been a more of a challenge than I thought it would be, but I'm really optimistic that people will see the value in it because, like I said, those students get so engaged when they see this content.
Yes, and this is a relatively new form of learning. So, do you see any other limiting beliefs or resistance that people might have?
Yeah, absolutely. The expression I've heard does says, we don't rise to the occasion, we fall to the level of our preparation. When things get hard, we resort to what's familiar, and that's perfectly normal human behavior. And so it's going to be a gradual adoption where people are able to step beyond what's familiar and try something new. I don't think it will be ubiquitous. I don't think we'll flip a switch and tomorrow everyone will be recording videos. I would love it if they did, but it will be a process. And I totally understand because, look, many people who are teaching learned about teaching, many decades ago, and they've been very effective in the classroom. So they look at it and say, I understand this is new, but like I've been doing this for so long and it's already worked. And that's 100% true. It's valid. Absolutely. But one thing I also like to share is there has been a very big shift in the behavior of students with the advent of smartphone devices and social media, right? It used to be that children would sit at a lunch table and talk. Now they sit at that same lunch table and they're texting each other, right? It used to be this case that students would go to class and like some of them would watch the teacher, some of them would be writing notes, some of them would be talking. Now, almost all of them are on their cell phones again. And so they've moved away from the model that a lot of us are following today. And that we need to adapt our model as educators and as school leaders to meet their behavior because the other way around, them changing is very, very unlikely. I don't see kids watching less video or playing less games or using the cell phone less. So therefore, it's up to us, the older generations, to adapt our practices to meet these students where they are with their preferred behaviors. That's the one thing that that's like my mission is to just build that bridge between the behaviors of the younger generation, what young people are doing today, and the behaviors of the educators, right? Because they're not aligned perfectly right now. And SOLcademy seeks to be that bridge to connect the two.
Wonderful. So, how do you see education in the next probably decade or so? What do you think would change?
Yeah, so two things. Number one, the expression is the pendulum always swings the other way, right? So now we've been all into remote learning. There's going to be a huge swing back to doing in person. And then at some point, we'll land somewhere in the middle, what I call hybrid learning, where I think every school on earth will provide the options for a student to be either physically in the classroom or at home and have the ability to learn at the same pace, regardless of their physical location. That's going to be a journey to get there. It doesn't look like Zoom classes, right? It's going to be very different. But for whatever reason, the concept of the sick day is going to be gone. Whether you're at home sick or in that classroom, you should have the ability to learn at the same pace. And that's where I really think things are headed. And one thing that, our long-term vision and what I'm really excited about is when students are online, they're generating useful information. Every time you click on a post on Facebook or TikTok or whatever, you watch a video on YouTube, it's generating an event, a useful piece of data that Amazon and Netflix interpret to use to show you more content or show you ads. And with online learning, companies like SOLcademy will now have the ability to see that information, but to use it for good, to use it to show the student that last week you were really engaged in your education. And this week you're slightly less engaged. And maybe that will help light the spark and get them engaged again. Or go to a student and say, you are really strong in these scientific concepts. Have you ever thought about being a chemical engineer? I'd like to connect you with a mentor who's a chemical engineer. Would you like to speak with them? That's the kind of thing that we can do. And then most importantly, well, not most importantly, but also very, very importantly, we can learn from the student and connect everyone in their learning ecosystem. We can connect their teacher, we connect their parent, we can connect their school, we connect their counselor, we can connect their sport coach, everyone around them with how the student is performing. If there is that fall off in performance and engagement for whatever reason, we can let that person's support group know what is going on. Maybe they've seen something and they had a suspicion that something wasn't, the way that it was before, but now they'll have actual data to make those decisions off of. That is where I believe things are truly heading. And this is how organizations run all the time. If you go to Amazon and Apple, it's all analytics all the time, right? Every decision that they make is data informed. And in education, not exactly there yet, but that's the journey that we're really on.
Amazing. Can you also tell us about your future plans?
Yeah, absolutely. My future plans. So hopefully in the future, I believe that this concept of hybrid learning will be really the way that things ultimately happen. And when you have that much data available, you can build an AI teacher assistant. That's where I really want to get to. I want to be able to make the ratio of teachers to students almost 1-to-1, because you'll have a physical teacher, right, who is a human being and who is helping you as a human being connecting with a relationship, but you'll have an AI who can do the, more technical things, who can help you with your lesson journey, instruction, and all sorts of things. So that's like way out in the future, but that's where I hope to ultimately get, 10 years from now.
Wonderful. And I wish you all the best for your future.
Thank you. I wish you the best too.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for your time and sharing all your valuable insights.
Thank you. Yeah, and anyone who hears this would like to learn more about SOLcademy, soul to soul communication, as we say, you can simply go to our website. It's SOLcademy.com, SOLcademy.com. Or you can join us on our Telegram chat, where we have a community of creators who are all connecting. So just go to t.me/SOLcademy, and on all other social platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and others, it's at SOLcademy, SOLcademy. Thank you so much, Gautam. It's been a real pleasure being here.
Thank you, Beau. Thanks for listening, and I'm sure you liked this episode. Please share this episode with others and let me know your thoughts. Let's meet in the next episode.